sports fans, welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my top 5 players at every position for the 2022 NFL Draft. So we're going to be going over every position on offense, every position on defense. You're going to get to see my top 5 players at every position. Starting off at the quarterback position. So it's a rather weak quarterback class. We know who the 5 best are. It's rather obvious. It's just what order. So my top quarterback is Malik Willis. I think you could also argue Kenny Pickett. He has the highest ceiling of all quarterbacks and has lots of rushing upside. Second is Kenny Pickett. Third is Matt Corral of Ole Miss. So he ran a lot of quick reads in college in an offense that ran a lot of RPOs. And then 4 is Sam Howell, and 5 is Desmond Ridder. So we're just going to try to go through these a little bit faster just because we have a lot to go through. If you want an explanation for any of why I have some over the other, make sure to leave a comment and I will fill you guys in. So, my running back number 1, I have Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. He's an explosive player, and he has the perfect combination of elusiveness as well as power and can break tackles. 2 is Breece Hall. Very versatile. He's effective in the pass game. He ran for almost 4,000 yards in 3 seasons at Iowa State. My third running back in the draft is Isaiah Spiller. Not an amazing in the pass game, but I think he could definitely develop into a more reliable 3-down back. So Spiller at number 3. 4, I think you could debate 3 players here. Brian Robinson, Damien Pierce, or Kayvon Williams. I'm going to go Damien Pierce here out of Florida. He was underused. He's not the fastest guy, but he's going to fight for extra yards every time. And number 5 is Brian Robinson out of Alabama. He doesn't have breakaway speed, but he has great vision and has short bursts. So those are my 5 running backs. My 5 receivers. So there's a lot of receivers this draft. So my top receiver, I think you could argue either Drake London or Garrett Wilson. Mine is Garrett Wilson. He could play either in the slot or on the outside. Good at getting separation and he's very good after the catch. Number 2 is Drake London. He's a big physical receiver with a huge frame. So really, it's just going to be helpful to whoever drafts him, because they're going to get a 6'5" frame to throw at. Number 3 is Jameson Williams out of Alabama. So he has tons of speed. He is coming off a torn ACL in the championship game, but he's a deep threat. I think he's someone like a Tyreek Hill. He can be useful all over the field. He's very fast. He's not quite as fast as Tyreek Hill. However, he's a very deep threat, and I have Jameson Williams at number 3. Number 4 is Treylin Burks out of Arkansas. He's not the fastest, but he has a big frame, and he's a physical wide receiver. And number 5 is Chris Olave out of Ohio State. He's a good receiver. He's fast. He's just more of a deep threat than anything else. He has great speed, however, he's not very good after the catch. And on to my tight end rankings. So now here is, I'd say, the weakest position of the draft. There's not projected to be any tight ends selected in the first round. But my top 5 consist of Trey McBride out of Colorado State. Greg DeLuche out of UCLA. I sure hope I said his name right. He's a great pass catcher and can also break tackles. 3 is Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina. He's a converted wide receiver, so he's already a above-average route runner and pass catcher as a tight end. Number 4 is Jeremy Rucker out of Ohio State. He's a great blocking tight end that could develop into a reliable receiving weapon. And 5, another good blocking tight end, is Jake Ferguson out of Wisconsin. And so my offensive lineman, I decided to put as one offensive line category. So my number 1 offensive lineman is Evan Neal out of Alabama. He's a versatile player. He can play guard or tackle. And I think the Jaguars should seriously look into him at number 1 overall. Number 2 is Akeem Ekwonu out of NC State. Another player I think could potentially go number 1 overall. He's a vicious run blocker that could also play guard or tackle. Third, we have Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. He is an elite pass protector. 4 is Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa. He could be an outstanding center in the NFL. He does have arm length concerns because they're a little bit shorter. However, I still think he could be a very good center. And 5 is Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. He did play in the FCS, so he didn't play against many good edge rushers. But still another great run blocker. An honorable mention to Kenyon Green and Zion Johnson. Defensive linemen, starting off on the interior. So, number 1, I included Trayvon Walker as an interior defensive lineman. You could argue that he's an edge player. Some sites have him listed as an edge, others have him on inside. He's just a freak of an athlete. He could play inside or outside, as I just mentioned. He's a versatile player. He's already an elite run stopper. And if he develops into a good pass rusher, he could be one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. Number 2 is Jordan Davis out of Georgia. So he's huge. He's 6'6", 341. He's a huge nose tackle. Just a space eater. Jordan Davis is my number 2 interior defensive lineman. 3 is, again from Georgia, Devontae Wyatt. He was overshadowed by the Georgia defense. He could be another good inside player in the NFL, although unlike Trayvon Walker, the run stopping part of his game is not quite there yet. Number 4 is DeMarwin Lean out of Texas A&M. He didn't test that well at the combine, however he does have quick and strong hands. And number 5 is Logan Hall out of Houston. He's a good pass rusher, not an elite pass rusher, but has pure power. And on to my edge rushers. It's a very deep edge class. So, number 1 is Aiden Hutchinson. He's probably the safest pick of all players in the class, in contention to go number 1 overall. 2 is Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. Great athlete, explosive edge rusher. However, there is questions about his maturity. My 3rd edge rusher is Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State. His stock really rose at the Senior Bowl, and I think he could be a potential top 10 pick. 4 is George Karlaftis out of Purdue. He's a great block shedder, however, in the pass game specifically. And you would think that would carry over to the run game, but he's not a good run defender. However, I still think he could become a good run defender. And 5 is Boye Mafe. He's a end of the first round, early second round guy. Has shown traits and he could be developed into a more complete player. On to linebacker. So number 1 and 2 are Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean respectively. I think you could argue them in either way. 1 is Devin Lloyd out of Utah. He's a little bit undersized, however, he's good in coverage and good when blitzing the quarterback. 2 is Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. He was the leader of that Georgia defense. Good pass rusher as well. Hard hitting, good speed. As I mentioned, either Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean, my number 1 linebacker. 3 is Christian Harris out of Alabama. More of a second round type player. He's just about good at everything, not elite at anything, but not bad at anything. Just a good solid corner. 5 is Brandon Smith out of Penn State. Good speed and size with a super high ceiling. And 5 is Chad Mumma out of Wyoming. I hope I said his name correctly. Good tackler, leader, however he did play at the Division II level, so he didn't go up against that much competition. However, he was a very dominant player at that level. My top 5 corners are Sauce Gardner at number 1. He's a big corner who's fast, and he wasn't targeted much this season because he's just so good. 2 is Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU. He has injury concerns, and also has concerns of whether he's always giving 100%. However, when he's trying and giving his 100%, he's a very, very good corner. 3 is Trent McDuffie. I think you could potentially argue him over Derek Stingley Jr. Trent McDuffie at number 3. He could play in the slot or on the outside. Didn't give up more than 39 yards in a game this year. 4 is Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson. He's a good tackler for a quarterback with great speed for covering fast wide receivers. And 5 is Kaiir Elam. He's one of the younger corners. However, he's great in man coverage. And the last position we're going to be talking about today is the safety position. Number 1 safety is obviously Kyle Hamilton. There's concerns about his speed, but he's very versatile. He could play inside the box. He could play as a slot corner. He has insane play recognition. He could even play maybe as a linebacker. 2 is Daxton Hill out of Michigan. Good in coverage, fast, and another potential nickel corner. 3 is Willis Seen out of Georgia. Another leader on that Georgia defense. Really fast. 4 safety. 4 is Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. Another fast safety that could play in the box, similar to Kyle Hamilton, just a little bit faster. Also a good defender getting downhill and stopping the run. And 5 is Jalen Petrie out of Baylor, a player that could also play in the nickel with great play recognition. So those are my top 5 players at every position in the NFL draft. If you want an explanation for any of this stuff, because as I mentioned before, I was trying to go quickly, so this video wasn't like an hour long. Obviously, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it wasn't forever. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I do my best to post as often as possible. Like, subscribe, comment if you agree with my rankings, disagree, and why, and I will see you in the next video.